Well, hello and welcome. This is FIDE Master and FIDE Trainer Vedant Goswami. Today, we are going to do something very interesting. So, in the morning, I was analyzing a game with one of my students, and it turned up some very interesting lines and variations. So, just wanted to share. And it will also uh, be an example of how analysis can actually improve your game by making aware you of different opportunities that exist in the position for both yourself and the opponent. This will also be an opportunity for us to discuss some uh, typical positions in the Giucco piano and some important ideas worth understanding. Okay, so let us go. So e4, e5, and this is a game. My student is around 1400 USCF or FIDE, and it was a joint analysis. And also, there was no computer that was used. So, if there is a fault in some analysis, it is totally possible. And I will also include the link to this analysis in my lichess study, so you can go over through that whenever you feel like. Okay, so NF3, NC6. Bishop c4, bishop c5, Giucco piano, one of the most popular lines in chess nowadays. And particularly, I think so because it just gives an opportunity for both sides to play the game instead of trying to remember some variation. While also, yeah, of course, sharp lines are possible. The lines with c3, d3, and the slow build-up are quite popular. And both of the sides need to exactly understand the plans to actually have a good chance in the game. So c3, threatening d4 and f6 and d3. d4 is a long, well-known theory. We'll not get into that. So d6, h3 and h6, both prophylactic moves, preventing the pins on the respective knights, which can turn out to be dangerous if you don't know exactly how to deal with it. So, and more so for black, because, I'll just share this now. So let us say, just play like castles. In this particular case, the pin on white knight is not so dangerous because the knight is still here, and the knight can be developed here and use that to unpin, and then it can be continued with rook e1 h3, the typical Spanish unpinning maneuver. Knight goes to f1, knight goes to g3, and the bishop has to retreat. Okay, so not very troublesome for white at this moment, and in fact, black most of the times avoid doing that because it is of no use at all. But yeah, for black, it might not be so easy because the knight is already here and it cannot come to d7. So small difference, but might be interesting to know. Okay, so anyway, the game went h3, h6, and now my student played castle, and his opponent also played castle. Okay, now at this point of time, actually our analysis started, and I introduced to him the possibility of playing g5. So in these type of positions, whenever you castle earlier than your opponent, there's always an opportunity for the opponent to just push the pawns in attack, because if you see the black king, it still has the opportunity to go and castle queenside while white has already committed. So if you play like some regular move and black already achieves a kind of breakthrough on the king side, and the plan for black is pretty simple. Rook goes to g8, knight can come to h5 and f4, and queen comes to f6, and black still has the possibility to castle queenside. So it can be very tricky to handle with white, and black does get a ready-made initiative and direct attack on the king. Okay, so this is something to be very clearly aware of, because this is the well-known plan and it can be quite dangerous. So uh, here, but also one important thing. So at this point of time, directly g5 might not be the best move, because white has this very powerful counter in the center, d4. So as we know, all flank attacks are best handled by a counterplay in the center. So d4 does look pretty dangerous for black, because his push in the uh, flank is kind of mistimed. So let us say bishop b6, and I can simply play this, and if it goes like this, and white has a clearly better position, winning a pawn and threatening. Uh, no, sorry, that is not even possible. Knight e5 is not possible, and maybe knight b2. So then still it looks okay, right? So sorry about that. Just this analysis, you can see things and you can miss things, but the basic idea is to discover the the opportunities in the position. So a knight b2 to now bd2 is possible, and maybe possible king e7. It still looks pretty okay. I am still threatening g4, and with some pressure on the f file, potential opening of the g file. So all that is possible. Okay, so we'll go to what happened. So after g5, uh, of course, d4 should be the correct move, the theoretical move, the standard answer. But my student suggested nh2, which is kind of a idea to prevent uh, the g4 push by putting some control on the g4 square and also attacking this. So we continued with rook g8, a very straightforward move, supporting g5, and with the idea of pushing h5. So b4, bishop b6, a4, some counterplay. Of course, it can be handled, a5, and ne7. Okay, so white has also done so. Queen f3, so just queen f3, and with a direct threat on f6. So ng6 is the regular move. And for black, it looks okay, because a piece which was on c6 has been transferred to g6, which can be a part of direct attack on the king. So not too bad for black till now. Black king is still safe, still has the opportunity to castle queenside if the requirement is there. So here he suggested the move knight g4, and this is quite dangerous, because I cannot capture. I want to capture with the knight, but cannot, because queen f7 will be a checkmate. Very standard theme to be aware of on the attack on f7. But so you have to take with bishop g4, h into g4. So here is where the kind of the key analysis started. Now white has kind of closed the king side, but it is black's job to open it. Otherwise, he cannot get any further, and the rook line is closed. So one way I was thinking is, like, let us say nf4, and yeah, maybe because white takes it, it should be good for black, because I open this and probably cannot be prevented. So this variation will be okay. And after nf4, we also have maybe g3. G3 is possible, and should be many ways to mix up things. I can even try h5, just so takes, and yeah, this pawn cannot. So let us say something simple, and this can turn out to be very dangerous for uh, white. Black has a very powerful initiative, and I can maybe foresee some, let us say, nh5, and queen going all the way here, and with some g3, and you have the pin, and very direct attack on the white king. So yeah, so this is possible. So interesting variation there. And so h5 and takes, and g4. We also looked at g4, but yeah, nothing much came out of it. So nh4 was more interesting. nh4, queen g3, and nh5, queen g4, and f6. We thought there could be no progress. Then I found this interesting idea. Let us say where it was. Queen e7. Okay, so queen e7, quite interesting. I'm giving up the pawn, but also I was hoping there is some counterplay because, we have the rook and the white king on the same line. And here, the main analysis starts with rook into g5, a very interesting move, sacrificing an exchange and then following up with this nf3. It looks like a blunder because white can just capture it. And now comes the most interesting move, long castle, simple. Now, the thing is, the white king is a bit isolated from the other pieces, and his king can come under direct attack with the very simple threat being rook g8, and it turns out it is not so simple to handle. So let us say white tried queen f5, king b8, and rook c1. Okay, and now the interesting move is rook h8. And the point being, if the king tries to run away, I can give this check and pick up this rook with a huge amount of compensation, and this rook, this knight cannot be developed because of the pin, and also it creates this additional threat of rook h5, trapping the queen. So interesting stuff. And so queen f5, king b8, and rook c1. Okay, so now we were trying, let us say, rook g8 and king f1, and I was trying nd5. So the idea is to sacrifice the knight, not for the sake of it, but to quickly open the line for the queen and threaten a checkmate here. So we'll see bishop d5, and I was trying queen h4, king e2, rook c2 is there, d4 is there. Let us say king e2, queen f2, and this doesn't work because it is simply checkmate. Okay, so yeah, this was one variation, and d5. So a very spectacular move, to say the least. I'm not sure whether it actually works or not. So and d5, what else could have? He was trying rook a2. Rook a2 is possible, and then we were looking at, and my student figured out this very nice move, knight e3, forcing white to capture it. And this opens up the whole second rank, and then following it with king h4. Now the threat of queen h1 and rook g2 checkmate is very hard to handle. So very nice move. And so let us say rook f2 is a move. So because if you play rook g2, that probably loses directly to this and this mate. Yeah. So this is possible. And rook f2 looks like a defensive try because king has some room to escape, and queen h1 and queen into c1 looks like we're getting somewhere, and d2, and we were trying. Um, Even bishop e3, yeah. This is the move I'm kind of proud of. So bishop e3, interesting move, because if there's nothing else, I can maybe escape with a draw, because king takes and check, and kind of it is a perpetual because white can't get away from the check. So a lot of interesting variations here, and we were also trying rook to g1. Okay, but I don't know. d4 is a escape plan. Rook g1, king e3. Looks like it is escaping. So probably not worth it. And, black has to call it a day after bishop e3. A very interesting move. Maybe happy with the draw. Nothing more. At least better than losing the game, right? So yeah, so this is the analysis. And what else was there? So ND5 was quite interesting, spectacular, but of course, Like I said, I haven't run it against an engine or something, so I'm not sure. Just human analysis, if I would say so. Something looks fun and we try, we see something works. And of course, in a real game, even opponent is not using an engine, and so pretty difficult to deal with the direct threats. So ND5 is possible, and bishop d5, and let us say bishop d5 and queen h4, and king e2, rook c2 is there. I don't know whether we are coming back to this variation or not. Queen comes here and rook g1. This looks very interesting because the knight cannot develop. But let us see, even there's a move d4. d4 is there. Yeah, then rook d1 is there, and which is like threatening checkmate on queen e1. And so king e3 is there. And now takes bishop d4 check. This should be lost, yeah, of course. And bishop e5, yeah, this is lost. So because king has to go back, and then how do we actually win? Maybe not very sure. But look, feels like should be winning. Let us say queen goes here, then the rook can come here. Maybe just queen b4. Don't know. f4, making a way to escape, and queen b3. Yeah, and yeah, this is mate, right? Because knight c3 and queen c3 is mate. Yeah, so some interesting stuff, right? And what else? Yeah, this seems like losing. So it is quite interesting after that, once the king is open and black is able to bring his pieces in quickly, it can bring up some very nice variations. So yeah, so this was the analysis we did, and I particularly liked the move that any three whenever it happened, because it is again a very spectacular move and opens the second rank, a very interesting concept. So yeah, so let us say, I guess this was, yeah, no, this was something different. Okay, so okay, we'll conclude this. I will put the link to this analysis in my lichess study. Do have a look. And but yeah, so this concept up till here is very interesting. Sacrificing the piece here. It is not that I am the inventor of this concept, but yeah, I think I have seen it somewhere. That's how I thought of it, and that is how you basically find ideas. You have to see a lot of games, and you see some themes, some patterns, and you start trying stuff, right? So things like that. So takes and an f3, very interesting concept. And white king is isolated and rook is coming over, so yeah, very interesting. So I hope you will find it interesting. Do check the link to my lichess study in the description, and maybe go through the variations. But interesting concept, particularly in the opening, to remember that particularly in this symmetrical positions, try to hold your castling till after the opponent does it. Otherwise, opponent can have some very interesting options. Okay, so I guess we'll conclude this for now, and I hope you found it interesting. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.